Welcome to the DNX podcast, the number one resource for entrepreneurs, nomads, and impact-driven souls. And I am your coach, Sylvia Christman. Welcome back. I'm here today with my friend Michelle Mueller, who is here to talk to us about modern motherhood and running a startup. Hi, Michelle. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. We met about a year ago, a little more than a year ago in Israel. And you're one of my personal sheroes because you have 3 children and you are running a startup at the same time, which I find so courageous. And I really admire the strength and courage that you have, because I always wonder, how do you make that happen?
Wow, that's a big question. I'm also going to throw in there that I'm a single mom of 3 boys in Manhattan. But you know what? I kind of think that women are just pretty spectacular, and no matter what happens, we figure out a way to make it work. So how do I do it? I'm not really sure, but I just know there's certain things that have to get done every single day, whether it's for my business or for my children or for myself. And if I don't manage that and handle it, it's not going to get done. So some way, somehow, everything gets checked off my to-do list.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit more about what it means to be a working modern mother in this day and age.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, I think that we're approaching a very interesting shift in society. At least I'm seeing it here in New York and other places in America. But, at one time, a woman allowed herself to be defined by her motherhood, or a mother did. When she became a mom, she essentially signed up to be a martyr to parenthood and to her children. And she lived and breathed that. And her children always came first, no matter what. Everything else, and mostly herself, always came second or further down the priority list. And for me, and what I'm seeing a lot of other amazing mom friends, we're choosing a different mindset. That mindset being, I am a mother. It's a part of who I am, but it is not all that defines me. It's a part of many other important things, such as working, the friendships that I have, the family that I take care of, if you have a partner, so on and so forth. And so I think that there is a big shift in seeking out more of a balanced life.
Yeah. Yeah. From the outside, you make it look so easy, honestly, which is why I have such adoration for you and admiration. Yeah. Because I think it's very hard in this day and age to actually make all of that work and manage it. And what do you think is your secret to success here?
Wow. I don't know if there's any one thing that's a secret, but I do know that and this is a gift that I've given myself, is the acknowledgement that I need some me time every single day. And some days that's more intense than others. Like, for example, I'm training to run the New York City Marathon in November. So I have to get in a certain number of miles every week. And those runs have become my me time. It's the one time of day I can turn my brain off and not think about anything else. And I find that to be incredibly important. Other days, just taking a moment to sit, close my eyes, turn off my brain for 2 minutes is kind of like hitting a reset button. And I think it's really important for not even just moms, but everybody really, to figure out what it is that gives you that space, that me time, and prioritizing that, because it definitely is the first step in choosing a more balanced life.
What constitutes balance for you?
I don't know if balance exists. I think, I know for me, it changes every single day, right? Because, the intensity level at my office, the time requirement from my children, if they have a week where there's a lot going on with school activities or presentations that I would like to attend, it varies, right? So gosh, I don't know. How do you find balance? I think it's a personal thing. And I think you should give yourself the space to acknowledge that schedules change every week, and that's okay. And, I always try to remind myself, not just in speaking to my own self, but in, building my own relationships, whether they're work or personal. But I like to remind myself, hey, like, we are all just doing the best that we can with what we know in the moment and with the bandwidth that we have. And so I think when you start looking at life that way, it's really giving yourself space and forgiveness to not be perfect. And maybe the secret to balance is stopping yourself from pursuing perfection.
Yeah. Have you always been that way?
Oh God, no. I had, I had an interesting childhood, I guess you could say. And I don't know, maybe some of your listeners can relate, but I had, two great parents that, were very supportive, but very much had the mindset of, defining success by like how good of a job you get, how good your grades are, very much following the formula of do well in school, get good grades, go to a good university, get a good job, so on and so forth, right? And so I think I grew up having someone constantly putting these structures around me and expectations, and I thought that was normal. And I remember getting out of college and having a conversation with my mom and saying, I'm thinking about taking this job, but I'm not really sure. And she's like, well, do whatever you want. And I had this moment of, wait a minute, I've always had somebody telling me what to do up to this point. And now what? Wait a minute, like this is crazy. And so for the first few years out of school, I did the New York City grind. I was working in real estate development, which is a very, very intense industry and working environment, especially for women. And then I ended up leaving after about 6 years of that and decided to launch food business. And in that, there was a lot of soul searching, and I found myself having to realign my expectations. And I learned probably the most valuable lesson in my life, in that, you get to choose to be happy. It's not, a goal that you attain. It's not buying a home. It's not getting that promotion. It's, enjoying the journey, and you get to decide to be happy every single day. And so you need to define what that is for you and start applying it to your life. It sounds simple, but it's actually pretty challenging. I think a lot of people have to do some pretty tough internal work to get there.
Yeah. What was the biggest challenge for you to get there?
Oh gosh, by far, going through my divorce. So, as I mentioned, I think a lot of people have to do some internal work to learn this amazing lesson that, happiness is ours to have every single day. And a lot of times the work is triggered by a life-changing experience, whether it's, losing a friend, a sickness, divorce, the list goes on. For me, it was definitely divorce. I was unfortunately, an abusive marriage before. And, I grew up around people that believe like you get married once, that's it. Divorce is terrible. So it was a very, very big struggle to build the confidence to leave. And then surround myself with people who are supportive and, made my day better. And then, obviously sort of getting on my feet and forging ahead. I mean, some of my darkest days were in the divorce battle, and having to go to court and, having that sort of challenge hanging over my head, but then to come home to my children and be happy mom and everything's great and fine. But at the end of the day, I made it through. And I have to say, it's funny, anyone I've ever spoken with who's been through a divorce or is contemplating a divorce, no one ever gets divorced and then says that they regret getting divorced. Every single person I know, they get divorced. And, it might not be right away. It might be a couple years down the road, but every single person I know says that they're really happy that they did it and chose to make that move. And, everybody ends up better on the other side. And frankly, if kids are involved, I think it's better for them too, because it shows them, I would rather be alone and independent and happy than to stay in a partnership that's making me chronically unhappy.
Yeah, that's a huge lesson. So you started your own startup. You have a startup, right? That also
Yes.
honors mothers in a way.
Yes. It's funny. I mean, we do make, a fresh, healthy baby food product, and we're very much changing the way that children are introduced to foods, which is great. But, I always like to point out that, it's not just a product for babies. It's actually kind of a gift to parents as well, right? Because this is time that we're giving back to them so that they don't have to go out and grocery shop and research nutrition requirements for different ages as babies grow, and puree and chop food and make a mess of the kitchen. And I mean, really, when it's all said and done, it gives you back about 6 to 8 hours every single week. And I like to tell parents, hey, you have a newborn in the home, you're not sleeping very much, go take a shower, buy our product, and have a glass of wine with one of your girlfriends instead, And so it's a little bit, in a way, you can kind of link it to self-care, right? Because time is one of our most valuable assets, and to save that is priceless.
Yeah. Oh my God, absolutely. So you employ a lot of mothers as well?
We do. So I have 3 other co-founders who are wonderful and amazing. And there's no way I would have gotten this company off the ground without them. But one of my responsibilities as a co-founder was to build out our customer care team. So really, we're the very first line directly to the company. And so a lot of prospective customers reach out to us first. So when I was building out this core team, it was very important to me that we employed mothers. So every single person on our customer care team is a mom. And I'm actually very proud to say that 2 of them are single moms. And that's something that's obviously very near and dear to my heart. But to be able to help support other single moms is something that I'm incredibly proud of.
Yeah. Why do you think it's so important?
I think, twofold, right? So to support other mothers who I know there's not a single mom out there who is not struggling with the idea of balance. So I get to, in my role, I get to create the environment that we have as a customer care team. And I'm incredibly supportive. I have personal relationships with everyone on my team. And I very much treat them so much more than just an employee of our company. And I think it's really special to me to be able to help facilitate that understanding with other women who are going through their own transitions into motherhood and striving to find that balance that works for them. As far as single moms, I know that for me personally, when I made the transition into being a single mom, feeling needed on a business level was very impactful to me. It helped me to build my self-confidence. And in that, it helped me to be more cognizant of the relationships in my life. And so, this hasn't ever been a direct conversation with the single moms that work for us, but I would hope that they're going through a similar transition and that I am allowing them the space to have that experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. I
Thank you.
I love, it's so important. And I think it's really incredible that the work that you do and the examples that you set.
Thank you.
You said earlier that time is our most valuable asset. What is the number one thing that you like to practice that gives you the feeling that you have time and that you make every minute, work in your life?
Wow, that's a good question. I have a little ritual that I do with my three boys every morning. And we usually do it on the walk to school. I tried doing it at dinner time, but trying to get the attention of three hungry boys while they're eating is a bit of a challenge. So we decided to move our ritual to the morning. So basically, on our walk to school, we go around in a circle and we share three things with each other. We share one thing that we're grateful for. And then we move on to one thing that is a brag or a breakthrough, basically something you're proud of. And then the third and final share is an intention or a goal. And there's really, I always remind them there is no time constraints. So it's not like you have to say, this is something that's happened in the last 24 hours, or my goal is for this day. It could be anything. It could be for the week, for the year, for your lifetime. But it's kind of, the ritual really is about stopping for a moment, appreciating all the things that you have, taking a moment to be proud of yourself for something, acknowledging your power, and then setting an intention. And I think it's just a very simple, quick mindfulness practice. And it's completely reshaped my life and how I approach my days. And it makes everything feel manageable.
What's one of the funniest things your son said during this ritual?
Oh my gosh. Like they say some funny things sometimes, but then they say some things that are just mind blowing. And I'm like, wow, like what a great observation. For example, my little guy said once, I'm so grateful that we have running water. And I think he was probably studying maybe like Native Americans or somebody in school that, didn't have these luxuries. And he said, it's so cool, Mom, that we can walk over to a sink or to the shower and turn a knob and we have as much clean water as we want. And, for a 6-year-old to just, and this is something every single person on earth takes, well, maybe not every single person, but anyone in the Western world takes for granted every single day that we can turn a knob and have fresh, clean, safe water to drink or clean our bodies with. And so, I think that there are these moments, I wouldn't necessarily say funny, but, it brings me back to really noticing and having gratitude for very simple things in life. Because we all know that the advertising industry spends billions of dollars telling us that we have nothing and that we won't be happy unless we buy this car or this jewelry or whatever. And when you stop and have these moments to think about everything that you do have, it's very, it's really special.
Yeah. I love that. That's actually quite profound. So if you had, if one of our listeners is about to be single mom or a single mom, what would be the number one piece of advice that you would give them?
Wow. I would suggest that they move through an exercise where they evaluate the relationships that they have. And by relationships, I mean the friends and family that you're leaning on for support. And I would carefully think about each of those relationships and ask, what am I gaining by having this relationship in my life? And what am I losing? And really asking yourself if, as you move through a very challenging transition in life, if those relationships are helping you or hurting you. Because I do believe that in at least for me in my transition, my relationships that were around me were either going to make me or break me. And I very much reevaluated them, and made sure that the relationships I was investing in were things that were going to be helping me and not hurting. And I think that also goes back to this idea of time, right? And I started choosing just to invest in people who I knew were doing the same for me.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for being on the podcast with us and sharing your wisdom. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much for having me and giving me the space to share.
Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Before I leave you, I want to invite you into my world. Join us at the DNX Festival in September in Lisbon. If you go to our website and use the promo code podcast50, you get an extra €50 off your ticket. And subscribe to this channel and leave us a review if you can. We will review these frequently, and you can leave us a question that we will answer live online. Until next time.